Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Non-Scripted Ramblings. I'm Kendall Richardson. Thank you so much for joining me once again. And holy shit. Where do I start with this one? It's episode 5 of Loki, Journey into Mystery. I'm loving the title of the episode, just straight off the bat. Comic book reference for the win. Because that was, I believe that was the original run of comics where like Thor and Loki debuted, was the Journey into Mystery series. So that's really cool. And it really sums up this episode like in so many ways, because we really are in unknown territory. We have like Loki is in unknown territory. No idea what's going on. He's pruned, he's woken up in this wasteland, and he's got 4 different versions standing over him being like, you need to come with us or you're gonna die. My God, it's great. Like the opening shot was so cool. The way that the camera did this, kind of upside down sort of move through the TVA, through to the timekeepers, and then through to the void, which is the place that all pruned things go. So it's nice to have that confirmation of it's not a dimension where just Lokis are. It is where literally everything goes. As Renslayer explains, it's this point at the end of time where there's this void, and the TVA have sent everything that they've pruned, all of the branch timelines they reset. She explains that they can't erase like every bit of matter really, so they send it somewhere else, they transfer it. So this is where it is. This is why we have all of these buildings that look like, New York City. Avengers Tower was in the background of the post-credit scene last week. So it all makes sense, because these are where everything goes to die, basically. Because as soon as you arrive, there is this monster in the sky called Alioth. And boastful Loki describes it as a living tempest that consumes matter and energy. And it's just this amazing, just horrific entity. It's just a giant black and purple cloud with a face that kind of comes through, and oh man, it was awesome. And it makes this awful, ominous, horn of a moan sound. It reminded me of War of the Worlds a little bit, in that just evoking that sense of dread of this is it, this thing's gonna get you. And it's just insane. Visually stunning. So impressed with the visual effects in this entire episode, and of how Alioth is brought to life here in this episode, as this ever-looming threat. It's just fantastic. We pretty much immediately go back to the TVA, though, as soon as, we get that brief exchange between classic Loki and our Loki. And, Sylvie and Renslayer are at odds still, and Sylvie's trying to get to the bottom, and we find out that Ravonna doesn't actually know who's behind the TVA, and she's just as upset and shocked as Sylvie is, but for different reasons, obviously. So it's not what I theorized I don't know if I mentioned in the video, but I think I mentioned it in the podcast called Fred. Please go subscribe on all of the podcasting apps. I thought that, it would be, once you get to that, because she started as a hunter, so once you move up the ranks to a judge, that's when you get clearance to everything. It's like, Coulson walking in and going, welcome to level 7, that's kind of the vibe I was getting. Because she knows about pruning, and she knows about the void, so, I guess she just doesn't have the right, or no one does at the TVA, about who the timekeepers really are, and who's really controlling them, who's in charge of this whole thing. So that was interesting. But yeah, of course, she was just trying to manipulate Sylvie into, letting herself be captured again. So yeah, so their scenes were interesting. It was nice to see Miss Minutes come back. Tara Strong returns in this episode as Miss Minutes for a couple of different scenes, which I really liked. So yeah, but I'm glad Sylvie didn't fall for Renslayer's thing, because I didn't buy it really. Like, as soon as she was like, "You gotta trust me, we're gonna work together," she's like shaking her hand, like putting her hand out for a shake, and I'm like, no, I don't buy this. So I was happy that Sylvie cottoned on. I mean, it did take her a bit longer than, I think it was the fact that, as well, that she mentioned the existence of an apparent time ship that can take you through the void to what's beyond, and to the end of the universe where whoever's in charge exists. So I thought that was good. But I liked the moment when Ravona's like, come out now, I'll put you in a time cell, in a time loop, and you can live out the rest of your days in a happy memory. Do you even have any happy memories? And then Sylvie just kind of to herself goes, just one really. And then that's when she makes the decision to prune herself, which was cool, because I think she figured the only way she's going to get to the bottom of this is if she sends herself to the void. So that makes total sense. I have two theories on the just one, really, what she's referencing. One could be the fact that she's maybe thinking about her time as a child on Asgard when, before all of this started, many, many, many years ago. Or the other thing is, maybe she's thinking about that moment with Loki on Lamentus, because obviously it was such a, as we saw last week, such a big connection, created such a huge Nexus event, and it's how they were able to find them. And they were, genuinely connecting. So I feel like, and because she's already at this point indicated that she wants to get to Loki, she wants to know if he's okay, all of this stuff, and we get that throughout the episode. So that kind of is what I think she was referring to at that point. The episode for me, definitely, all the best stuff is in the void. Like, any of this stuff with Renslayer at the TVA is fine, but it's not where the meat of it is. I did like the exchange between Renslayer and Hunter B-15, the fact that she's keeping her alive, or keeping her there to find out, what drives Sylvie, and, I love the line where Hunter B-15 is like, she's like, you don't care about the TVA. You want to find out who's in charge of this whole thing as well. And she's just like, you'll never get there, not before she does. And then I think Renslayer's like, why is that? And Hunter B-15 is like, you only want it. She needs it. I'm like, yes, makes total sense. Yes. This is Sylvie's glorious purpose, basically. But anyway, let's talk about all of the Lokis in this episode. My God. So to start with, we've got boastful Loki, played by Diobia Opere, who's a lot of fun. I would have liked to have seen more of him as well. But I liked the fact that, when they're in their little bunker, he's like talking about the fact that he killed Captain America, he killed Iron Man, and then got all 6 Infinity Stones. And then Alligator Loki growls, and classic Loki's like, he's simultaneously growling and calling you a liar. And then boastful Loki's like, well, at least I didn't eat the wrong neighbor's daughter, or what is it? Is that what he says? I'm trying to, where is it? I thought I wrote it down. Yeah, no, cat, not daughter. Eating the wrong neighbor's cat. And then, they have this big fight, and it's just hysterical. It's very, very funny. So I like him. Kid Loki, of course, is very interesting, very cool as well. I learnt a couple of things in this, one main thing, but the fact that Kid Loki, says his Nexus event was the fact that he actually killed Thor. That's mental, and the look on Loki's face kind of says it all. Like, oh wow, there's a version of me that killed Thor. That's insane. I wish they could have had time to explore maybe the psychological ramifications for Kid Loki on that, although he does seem pretty, like there is that moment later on where he kind of yells out, whenever we try to fix ourselves, we're sent here to die, kind of referring to the fact that, even though he's obviously diverging from the path was when he killed Thor. But he's probably been here for a long time, so he just, maybe he just hasn't fully worked through it yet. I don't know, or he is working through it. He does regret it, but he's still, but he's in charge apparently. Like classic Loki tells our Loki that this is his kingdom, which is interesting, because Loki's like, why do you wear the horns? Do people bow down or worship you, or all that stuff? And then classic Loki's like, you'll do well to respect the boy. This is his kingdom. And then Loki calls him Your Majesty and all that stuff. So that kind of indicated to me the fact that the horns are a mark of royalty. And I had a few thoughts on that, just going back to the MCU at large for a sec. The fact that Thor, the only time we've ever seen Thor in his helmet was apart from the fighting in Ragnarok, that doesn't count really for this context, but was when he was being, dubbed, the next king of Asgard right at the start of the first Thor film, right? And then the entire rest of the franchise until, well, pretty much the entire thing anyway, even when he does kind of become king at the end of Ragnarok, he's still not fully, I don't know, there for it, ready for it in a way. Like he knows it's not him, I think, especially after what happens in Infinity War and Endgame. He's just like, I can't do this. This is not who I am. And then, he gives the crown to Valkyrie. And so the fact that he never wears the helmet again, I think is representative maybe of the fact that that is a mark of royalty, that is a mark of ruling, and he doesn't feel worthy of that, pun intended. So he never puts it back on. But then, the only other thing with that is that, I guess Odin, for example, he only wears his helmet in the first Thor film as well, only during a couple of scenes. The coronation, the Jotunheim stuff, the moment where he found Loki as a baby, he's wearing the helmet then, I think. And we never see him wear it again, but it's fine. I think that's probably for different reasons, because it's probably just like a crown, it's a ceremonial thing, but because it's what it represents, that might be why Thor is like, I'm not going to wear it. Whereas Loki is like, he's wearing these horns, like the times we see him wearing the horns are, again, ceremony, so the coronation, start of Thor 1, and then at the end when he's like, I'm going to go to Jotunheim and destroy it, and I'm going to do this and that. In Avengers, when he's trying to conquer New York, when he's in Stuttgart and he's grandstanding, talking about, freedom is life's great lie and all that stuff, to the people below him. And then in Ragnarok, when he returns and says, your savior is here, he's returned to his kingdom, his people, he's still, there's still that part of him that believes he is worthy of being the king he believed he was raised to be. So he is wearing the horns as a mark of his royalty and the respect he feels that he is owed. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So I got a lot out of that one little line that Loki says about the horns. It was interesting. Quick little sidebar. When they're going down into the bunker, we get that shot through the earth and we see Mjolnir. And then immediately in a jar is Throg. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is fantastic. Like that out of all the little tiny references you noticed in the background of this episode, that was the best one. He's like jumping, trying to get to and he's growling, and he kind of sounds Hemsworthian, in a way. That was really funny. And then the at one point you see a Thanos copter helicopter, which is a reference to a part in the comics when Thanos was literally riding in a yellow helicopter that said Thanos on the side of it. Bless him. Love it. Yeah, alligator Loki, what can I say? He protect, he attack. Oh, yeah, smitten. Yeah, he's great. He's wonderful. I love the way everyone reacts to him throughout this entire episode. I love the kind of rant that Loki goes into when he's like, tell me what's going on, where are we, what is this place, who are all of you, I can't believe I'm here, blah, or he just kind of word vomits all this stuff out, and then says he's heartbroken to report, I don't even find it all that strange that there's an alligator version of me, that there's or that I'm looking at an alligator. And then, you know, he's told that it is a variant of Loki. And he's like, he just kind of makes this hilarious face and says, I'm willing to accept that. Like, he just doesn't question it. He even says to Sylvie later on when he's like, this is us as a child, this is us as us in the future, and this is us as an alligator. It's best not to question it. It's just great. And then even again, like it's a 3 beat kind of gag, because and then the second beat of the 3 is when we have that glorious, pun intended, scene where President Loki comes in with his army of Lokis, and he's, you know, kind of monologuing a little, and then notices the alligator, and then both classic, and he's like, what the hell? Why the hell is there an alligator in here? And then Classic and Kid Loki are like, it's a Loki, and then that's when the alligator attacks him. That whole sequence, I just need to say, was fantastic. Just the comedy of the whole thing was so good. I loved the fact that, like, you know, our Loki is just, he's so adamant, he's like, I'm gonna go kill Eliath, and it's gonna, you know, save us, and we're gonna get out of here, and all this stuff. Like, he thinks he knows what he's doing, and he's like, I need your help, and then the variants laugh at him, and so he's just like monsters, and he walks out, goes up the manhole, and then that's where we get that first glorious shot, I'm gonna just keep saying glorious, of President Loki and his horde, and I just love the way that Tom plays President Loki is very good, and I do wish we had gotten a little bit more of him. He's only in it for a couple of minutes, but I mean, what we do get is fantastic, so I'm not entirely complaining here. But yeah, it's just so funny that, you know, that boastful Loki betrayed the other Lokis, so he could be king of the void, and then President Loki's like, no, that's not how this is working. It's my army, I'm in charge. You get diddly squat. And then his army betrays him, and then and then that's when the alligator exchange happens, and then it bites off his hand, and then A+ to Tom Hiddleston for nailing that high-pitched, hilarious scream. That was so funny. I couldn't stop laughing for like 5 minutes. Like, and that's just when everything breaks out, because like on the sidelines, our Loki has been watching this kind of just like, you know, pretty much face palming, embarrassed to be there. Like, these are these versions of me. Wow, I can't believe I'm like this. So funny. And then when the fighting starts, he's just kind of like tiptoeing his way through everything, you know, like not wanting to get involved. He's just like, I'm just gonna stay out of this. This isn't about me. This has got nothing to do with me. But just watching all of these Lokis fight each other, use their magic against each other, you know, daggers and kicking and punching and screaming, and just, oh my god, it was amazing. It was so good. Classic Loki uses his conjuring ability to you know, project illusions of some of the other, like, well, him, our Loki, Kid Loki, and Alligator Loki, and immediately Kid Loki throws Alligator Loki on I think it might be Boastful Loki, or I think it's Boastful Loki, or one of the other variants. But a lot of people online were like, okay, that looks like they're doing Get Help. So that was if that's what that was, that's pretty cool. Yeah, but that whole scene was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Um, and I will. Or do I want to? Okay, I'm going to keep talking about the Lokis. I want to talk about classic Loki because I haven't talked about him yet. Richard E. Grant, hats off, well done, brilliant. Like if you could cast an older version of Loki, like an older version of Tom Hiddleston's Loki, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And I think, if you've seen those memes online of, who would be the like MCU cast in the 90s, and I'm pretty sure they have Richard E. Grant on that graph as Loki. So that's very cool. Yeah, he's just perfect, and I loved everything about him, and learning what his Nexus event was too was very powerful, and kind of a redemptive or vindicative moment for us fans, because Loki learns that classic Loki is exactly him, but someone who survived Thanos in Infinity War. So, and we get that line about he said, like, classic Loki says, "No offense to all of us, but blades are worthless in the face of a Loki's sorcery." And I'm living for this meta commentary, and this kind of sass jabbing at Marcus and McFeely or the Russos or whoever's responsible for Loki's death in Infinity War, because I get why they did it. Makes perfect sense. It's poetic in terms of the story, what they were trying to do. Like, it's such a big, like, cool thing. If you're introducing the biggest bad you've got through this entire saga, what better way to do it than by killing off the first main villain of this series, the one that brought the Avengers together in the first place? What better way to establish them as a threat by offing, the previous big threat that you thought was, all that, like, it's just, it speaks a lot to, the poeticism of the whole thing. Like, it's great. It's fantastic. However, the way he was killed was bad, and we've all been fully aware of that. I am still not over it, as I keep saying. It's been 3 years and I'm not past it. I still really struggle watching that scene, not just for the problematicness of it, because of course he would use his magic, cast an illusion. He's not stupid. I don't know why main timeline Loki did that. Went for the dagger, went for the throat. I mean, I get it, and it's good because he gives that whole thing. He's like, Loki, Prince of Asgard, son of Jotunheim, Odin's son, like all that stuff. Like that, I love that whole thing. It's great. But don't kill him that way. So I love that this episode really took the time to acknowledge how bad that is by having classic Loki go, "No, daggers are stupid. Why would you do that? I projected an illusion of myself so convincing that the Mad Titan fell for it. I faked my death. I floated in space as debris, disguised myself as debris basically until I contemplated my purpose." He said he realized that everywhere I went, only pain followed. So he decided to exile himself from everyone, which is why he got to the age he got to, because he was, he didn't interfere with any timelines because he was by himself on a planet alone. So the TVA are like, right, you can stay because you're not ruining anything, because as far as everyone else is concerned, Loki is actually dead, right? So, but it was the moment where he realized that he was lonely. He missed Thor. He missed his family. He missed Asgard, whatever was left of it at that point. And he wanted to know if they missed him too, and he wanted to return and be reunited with those that he loved, or, thought he loved, thought they loved him, all of that. He wanted his brother back, right? Makes sense. Beautiful. As soon as he made that decision and went to leave the planet, that's when the TVA is like, no, and he gets pruned. So I really, really liked hearing that. I also really loved the whole part where later on when Mobius is talking to classic Loki, Kid Loki, and Alligator Loki's there as well. And then, he's talking about going back to the TVA and, basically making sure people are aware of the truth and what's really going on. And classic Loki's just like, you're turning your back on the very thing you devoted your life to. Like, this was your glorious purpose, right? The TVA. Like, you stood for them, you believed in it so fully and truly. And now that the illusion's gone, you know the truth, you're willing to just betray them, essentially. And he's trying to wrap his head around it. And Mobius just says, it isn't too late to change. And I think that moment is really the turning point for classic Loki, where he goes, okay, my glorious purpose can be whatever I want it to be. And that's where we get that, at the end of the episode when he comes back, and I'll go into that very shortly. But I want to talk about Mobius for a second now. I love the stuff with Mobius and Sylvie. It was awesome. The two of them kind of, having a couple of moments together in this car. He saves her from Alioth, and we get that awesome slow motion shot of her enchanting Alioth and seeing through the facade of the beast. Like, that was a really cool visual shot. And then the two of them in the car talking, and she's like picking on his driving ability, saying, you're driving towards it, why aren't you driving? And I saw someone post, I think on Tumblr, this gift set of that scene next to the scene from Thor: The Dark World, where Loki is like side seat driving Thor on the Dark Elf ship through Asgard, making that hilarious commentary, very funny. And then Mobius says, you really are one of you. I thought that was really good. But it was nice that Mobius, apologized to Sylvie for the fact that she's like, you hunted me like a dog. And, he fully realizes and admits that that was wrong of him to do, and he shouldn't have done it now that he knows the truth. So they have that nice moment, and I really like it. I'm really glad we got a lot more Mobius this week, too. Some good Mobius moments, I should say. Really good Mobius moments. Where do I go from here? I mean, maybe I should just talk about the Loki and Sylvie scene then, because I really, really liked that scene. Like, following the great scene inside this like disheveled hut with Mobius and classic Loki and Kid Loki and Alligator Loki. That's great. That's a great scene. Then we go outside, and it's just Loki and Sylvie sitting next to each other, having like this really awkward but endearing conversation with each other, pretty much admitting that they're kind of in denial about whatever their connection is, because they're just, I feel like they're both just so unsure, because they're so unfamiliar with whatever they're feeling, whether it's, again, as I said last week, whether it's romantic, whether it's platonic, whatever the connection, the relationship is, it's new to them, because Sylvie says, she's like, I've always been alone. I've never had a friend. I've never had this, whatever this is, and Loki, we know Loki feels the same. So I just loved that beautiful moment of the two of them again, just, I don't know, just bonding and talking to each other, and, and then the stuff with the blanket was really cute. Loki's like, it's cold, he conjures himself a blanket, and he's like, I can conjure you one too if you like, and she just says, you can conjure me a new outfit. And then what does she say? She says, where I wrote it down. You have no idea how uncomfortable this is basically what she says. And I think that's probably hinting at the fact that, because I've heard or read interviews with Tom Hiddleston talking about how heavy and just tough that outfit is to wear. His Loki outfit is, like, earlier on in the films, is to wear, because of all the metal and the leather, and, it's just very intense. So I really liked that. That was really, really good. It was just, and he still notices how cold she is, so he then makes the blanket stretch over her, and she comments on the fact that, like, it's not very snuggly, and he's just like, okay. It's a tablecloth. No, it's a blanket. It's just very, very cute. I really, really liked that moment a lot. and she's, you know, and then she asks him if, you know, when all this is done, is he gonna betray her? And he says, you know, he basically says, I betrayed my brother, my family, my home. I know what I did, and I know why I did it, and that's not who I am anymore. And I love it. I love that. Like, this is our new Loki we're getting. Yes, part of me is disappointed we didn't get more of the villainous Loki in the show. I was expecting a bit more of that, but at the same time, his character progression through this whole thing has been phenomenal to watch, and I am very happy that, you know, because it was good where we were in the movies before he died, we got this Loki who had, you know, come good, had a redemption, right? And now here he is again, you know, redeeming himself in a different way, and, you know, having this growth of like, okay, you know, I know I've accepted my flaws, I know my flaws, and I know what they are, and I know that's not, I'm not that person anymore, and, you know, and it's funny at the start when he's like, I don't know how many days, has it been days? It's been a weird past few days, months. I don't know how long it's been since New York. Like, that was very funny to me as well. He has no idea. Time is just kind of weird at this point. But yeah, no, that was really nice of him to just go, okay, here's where I am now. I'm fully realized, fully developed. I am, you know, I'm not the villain, I'm not the bad guy anymore. He's the hero. So, yeah, I thought that was really good. And then, you know, Sylvie's like, I'm going to enchant Eliath and see through to where we need to go and get there. And Loki decides to obviously stay and help her do that, and Mobius returns to the TVA with the use of the tempad that she took from Renslayer. Yeah, and then we get a really great Mobius and Loki moment, where, you know, Loki's like, what are you going to do with the TVA? And he goes, I'm going to burn it to the ground, mimicking what Loki said back in episode 1. And he says, thanks for the spark. And I love how Loki smiles at that. And then he goes to say goodbye, and then holds out his hand to shake, and then Loki just, you know, considers it for a second and then just goes, what the hell, and then hugs him, and they hold each other for, you know, it feels like the longest time, and it's so nice. And I lost it because it's the first time we've seen Loki hug anyone in this entire thing. 10 years. Yeah, 10 years of seeing Loki on screen, and this is the first time I've ever seen... Okay, that's a lie. He hugs Frigga in Thor 1. I forgot that part. But that feels like a millennia ago. But the fact that, you know, we're at this point where, because, you know, back then he was still kind of the... I mean, yeah, he was part villain then at that point, but things were a bit different because you understood where he was coming from because of the lies he was told and all of that stuff. Doesn't, you know, justify his actions, but the fact that he, you know, he had that moment. But now we've gone through so much more, and it just felt like Loki was never going to have this again with anyone, or have it at all. And that's kind of what the show's been touching on. And so for them to take this moment for Loki and Mobius to have this friendship strengthened and solidified with this amazing hug was just so nice. Loki's like, thank you, my friend. And then Mobius says, you know, you're still my favourite, or you're my favourite, he says to Sylvie. It was very funny. So hopefully we see some Mobius against Renslayer action next week. I'm down for that. But yeah, before I finish my epic rant about this episode, the climax of the episode, this massive battle between Loki, Sylvie, and Eliath, with the help of classic Loki, as I hinted at before, him coming in, realizing this is his glorious purpose, and he conjures Asgard as a distraction, because like Loki has this sword that Kid Loki gave him, said you'll need this on your journey, which was really cool. And you know, it's that beautiful shot of him saying, come and get me, and he's holding the sword up, flaming sword up to the sky, pointing it at Eliath, as a distraction while Sylvie's trying to do her thing. But then classic Loki comes along and is like, no, I'm going to, you know, I believe in what they're doing. They're going to bring down whoever's behind all of our suffering. So I'm gonna sacrifice myself for them and for this glorious purpose. And he conjures Asgard, and it's stunning. It's amazing. And then watching Alioth kind of try and swallow the buildings as they disappear, and just visually and the score. This is when Natalie Holt's score really delivers in this episode. We get the Loki theme that we've kind of heard throughout, but done in such an operatic way. We've got singers, we've got a choir going on, and it's just all very epic and grand, and just, whew, what a moment. You know, and then that's when Sylvie's like, you know, we're going to enchant him together, and he's like, I can't do that, and she's like, yes you can, because we're the same. And you know, they hold hands and do it, and like, oh my god. But it's just so, it was great, and it was bittersweet, but it was nice to see that this is classic Loki. It was a Loki that survived Thanos, and he, you know, he went through, he had that redemption. He, you know, lived out a life because he didn't want to hurt anyone else anymore. And all he wanted to be was with his family. So as a final act of defiance against his apparent destiny, he conjures his homeland, Asgard, and, you know, it's just beautiful as well as just powerful and, yeah, incredible. And I just love that moment where he's like, glorious purpose. And then, of course, Alioth, you know, swallows him whole as he's cackling, kind of, you know, maniacally, like, this is me, I'm done, I've served my glorious purpose now, it's over. And then, yeah, just as Alioth is about to swallow up Sylvie and Loki, that's when they break through with their enchantment, and then the cloud parts, and it's all green, and it's all beautiful, and, you know, Loki can't believe what he's done. Sylvie's like, open your eyes. He opens his eyes and just is stunned with himself. The fact that they've both done it, their hands are still intertwined. And it's just, and then they walk through, and that's it, and that's the episode. That's done. We're done. And that whole, I just, every time, like, I've seen the episode twice now, and I've just, that final 5-10 minutes of just that battle is just so good. It's so good. I mean, this has to be the best episode so far. Like I've been saying that every week, every episode, in my opinion, has gotten better than the last. I love, love, love it. I will defend Lamentus forever. I know that's probably everyone's least favourite episode, but I absolutely adore it. However, Journey into Mystery, guys, has been exceptional. It is exceptional. It sets up an incredible finale. We still have no idea where this is going to go, what's going to happen, who's behind it. I was reading theories about how maybe a Loki variant is behind the whole thing, because they have that superiority complex of there can be only one, so he's erased all these other Lokis because for that reason. But now after this episode, I'm starting to say that theory is probably not true. I mean, it could still happen. I don't think so. I think Kang seems more likely, but then given the fact that Ravonna claims, at least, she could be lying. We saw her lie in this episode, but as far as we know, she has no idea who's behind it. So that kind of maybe rules out the Kang theory. So then who the hell is controlling the TVA? To, you know, mimic the words of Loki last week, then who is controlling the TVA? Who created the TVA? I have no idea. We have one episode left, guys. We will find out next week. It's gonna be insane. I can't believe it's almost over. I'm so sad about it, but I can't wait at the same time. It's gonna be beyond epic. This episode was just brilliant. I'm so happy with this show. It's like I could cry. I'm that happy. I just, yeah. It's everything I ever wanted and more in this. I didn't expect any of this. Like I knew it was going to be good, but the fact that it's this good, and it's kind of everything I kind of hoped it would be, really, in a lot of ways. Yeah. Thank you so much, Marvel Studios, everyone involved in this show, just brilliant. Thank you. All right, that's going to do it from me. Thank you for everyone that has watched these videos. I really do appreciate it. Sorry that I do waffle on quite a bit, but I, as you can see, I'm very passionate and love it. And I have a dress with Tom Hiddleston all over it, just in case you were wondering, courtesy of Living Dead Clothing. This is the best. Okay, all right. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, guys. I've been a Kendall Richardson, and you've just experienced non-scripted ramblings.